Hola so. Tatring ngatu tambochi number chamala. Shopa delay any to some delay si shogins.
So I want to greet everyone in whatever time zone you are, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening.
Any tatring ngatu chachi tadu yubake any lamchori chintuake sunchute mentu de mata the syndrogins.
So I'll be continuing on with some explanation of the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path.
The Dindutani Tadi sunchute chute mashil hona Chiba Lamanguni na yang any lamala soatap lamata Zaba lamata jiba lamala soatap. Any chinaba niba boy in the yang any lamatang Zaba lamala sopat and the soatayate any package is.
So before giving instructions, it's very important for the teacher as well to make a request to the lineage of the gurus, and for those who are listening to the teachings also to make requests, prayers to the root guru and the lamas of the lineage.
Some Sanje Tam Jing over Danjing Origin Chapter, cutting Somba me Bebangon, Jinkin Lama Tam Bishop Jet, Drama me Bala, over up the Pesa, and the change of Sanjo, Jesinja Labaranze de Namda Tutum Zame Sajela, thinking Bamir long Benzi, Shiram Yetan, which you consort. Tâm cho tôi con trở về kia lệ ông so nhìn đầu chim bị bay ở li man de lo du chim bị chu con de ni se trở ba chim bị chum trở giang de lo sa chim bị xiao lang gu san sa nhìn de chim bị cái đó chân ne chi cấp je chim bị la ma ni paran je chun de chim bị trở về giang chen je are ba chim bị xiao la so ra Ba Jimbe Rinjo Yongso Se Saja Jimbe Dobang de Jen Tele Jimbong Kada Nyambrada Yingom Jimbe Shala Sorwa Shivzen Kala Chirab Jikorji Zebe Dondur Zelina Pop Jerutimba Kone Sanzeba Kajurumbo Jilang Gusan Parti Dojin Chaware Kun Chabda Lama Kalma Bai Jikor Kunjan Junisi Jebam Jayadanam Jerma Chile Kunja Sibawan Chijong Berkin Jamdala, Namjot Jekubun, the Don Rame to Jong Java Kunja Chiga, Jide Bakani, Dakarawa, Junjakiwan so the Burger, Kamsundova Lamangusa, Martin Zavalama Rumbochi, Dagajivar Beme de Yola, Karin Chimbi, Goneji Zong de Kosong Tujang Zad so. Sanje Gonda Nyamna Yang, Gadi Sanje Gong Laben Gong, Zavala Meshavla Sowand, Dasun Rovelona Jusen. Kada Sobi Donge Jetina, the Jelomar Jabagan Soda. Tintin Bechi Jen Chambe, Simple de Batam Jen de Shish. Namaya Tambala Gedalo down the Jinge, Tadam Mekinum da, or Kunjetaki Chesamba, Tamji, Dagi, Chuti, and Majanroa now, Tadanya Simjin Tamji, Sije Donhan Tada letter de, number Tinja Deva, Lana me by Yanda Bozuba Sanji Jacob, Harambochi, the Nichen Toparsha. Chi de Tambuchu Samon de Ni Tsuyin the Sine, Nyamsa Lombar Jo, Nyambagone, Sinchar.
O benevolent root guru, who is in essence all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, with great devotion I prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind. Please grant your blessings to be cared for by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. Clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, Supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala expanding throughout space and knowledge of all things, beautiful thousand-fold light striking the lands of trainees, fully illuminating all of Buddha's teachings in their entirety. With devotion I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu. O glorious and precious Root Guru, please take seat of lotus in my heart. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind, equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all Buddhas in kindness to me. I pray at the feet of my Root Guru, O Protector, please turn the minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you have become disciples of the Sagatas, those gone to bliss, throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, may you come here. Namo, in languages of devas, nagas, and yakshas, languages of kumbhandas and human beings, in the sounds of whatever beings exist, in every language I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking all mother sentient beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled eternal bliss of perfect complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this I shall listen carefully without distraction to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
Oh, Samba, look at your cat. So sweet. You listen to your teaching.
Yes. He says, please talk in kitty language too.
Maybe I can teach you. This is a kitty language. Hola, so that you Simomala. That didn't do Johnny, that didn't to Sonam chicken, Zaya, Lamchor, Chintua. Any Koran Yamli, Tabo Tubase, Kadamba Givishi, Mambo, then Tubase. Any Cap de du Koran Gomchene, Kadamba Givshi, Gypsum Milarepa, Matul, Mona, Kadamba Givshi, Mambo chicken doing the Tubase. Tubase had the Gom Jam doing the Sheneka Topa Jula Chene. Any Koran La Pe, Shene Chibarchi Topa Jula Chene to the Shondoa. Any Yumare, any Gypsy, that they sang Matson, any Gypsy Milarepa doing the challenge, any Milarepa, any Kapsa Chu Nindisia, Ting when the Koran Kadamba Changbale Mato, Kadamba Changbale Mato, any Sunchu Toyu Mari. Any Milarepan Tetsade, any Saja Chimbi, any Sunchu Nang the Tane, Kapsa Chu Nindisia, Kadamba, Saja Chimbo Nide, Chu Chinyam the Diwanaji, Chuchinyam the Jamson and Diswanaji. Any song. Any condition would do any Koran Yamni also job at Samade, that down work to the Lamjin chores, drinking 2 hours. And it the cinema Pabiajet and the Jeridoa, Karazam, Sonam Chibong around. Tutata in a young Atundela Tubase, Sambase, Gombase, Chebase, what in the CIA, Bekarazambo is.
So in this main subject of the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path, it was composed by the incomparable Gampopa, who in his practice, first of all, studied with the Kadampa masters of that time in Tibet and became extremely learned from these teachings of the Kadampa masters, became very learned in the scriptures, and then took that into meditation, and in meditation developed a very profound state of calm abiding, or shamatha of the mind. But that was not sufficient. Later, then he met Milarepa, and from Milarepa learned the meditation of Mahamudra, the tantric practice. And then his practice became, Gampopa's practice became a union of these, the learning of the Kadampa geshes, and then the practice of meditation of the Mahamudra. And so it became a very complete practice. And then he set down this practice or recorded this practice in the form of these precious garland of the supreme path. So we're extremely fortunate to have this record of such a practice, to be able to still now, listen to these teachings, contemplate them, meditate on them, give teachings on them. We're extremely fortunate. I've lost the sound of Rinpoche.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. 나 근데 그 추슬랍 침보대 짜 침보게 침보대 안드시네 아니 슬랍 침보다 짜 침보대 간사를 이렇게 주네 조거리시나 아니 소시 공동주당 추니당 추주당 같어 다 되지.
So for this very precious, very sacred teaching, very blessed teachings, to have that kind of quality for us and in our practice, then that very much depends upon the motivation and the intentions that we bring to listening, contemplating, and meditating on it and practicing it.
남자 준데 추 강다 강슈바이나양 대백군의 랑데 추슈야데 빼자 침보리야 대박 군의 랑데 추슈야데 대바세야 되라 남바 숨도와 당어 대바 이치지 대바 아니 뭐도바 섬도바 대바세야 숨이 유디나니 디송가데 소수주라 찬리세나 학고리세네 근데지가 토니 대변 나장네 추슈 대변 나장네 추드 룡아이 송그 추 강다 강세네야 대변 흔들로네 대변 나장네 송아이나 야보차가 요리지.
So part of that motivation that's very significant is faith, and there's those three kinds of faith: the clear faith, faith of conviction, and irreversible faith. Having these kinds of this kind of faith in whatever practice of Dharma that we do is an extremely important aspect of the motivation, intention.
룡아이 송그 추 간데지 세나야 누구 추세나다 나가 추세나다 세고 추세나다 추 간다 간세나 투상 곰송 가르세나 때 흔드 대바ትን 로고야 돼 대변 나장네 대변 지스대 영화이나 아니 추들 추 넘버다 와지 착해서 이지.
So whatever practice of body, speech, or mind that we do in Dharma practice, whatever listening, study, contemplation, and meditation that we do, it's very important for it to be led by these types of conviction or faith, to be guided by conviction, sense of awe, clear faith, and then irreversible faith of our aspiration.
When 드랭가 추슈리 추슈리 값서 대바 역사들라 집지 말못 닥선라 삼로야 보지 당네 나랑 주니 실 남부 추고르쇼 락버드 롱고 까주 반냠니 두버 까완 롱고 까주 바게 말못 닥선게 짐당치를 쉬어야 돼 백가와 상보이 삼바 당부 대바 역사들 집지 말못 닥선 대난이 따보소나면치 이제 감보봐 근데시 아니 춘디 슬랍 치완다 춘들래야 대바시 아니 춘낭키 라마라야 대바시 어 대바시 참 마다와 망보지 요거도와.
So there's many sources or focuses of this faith, and the Dharma in general, in particular of the Dampo Kagyu lineage of Marpa, Milarepa, and Gampopa, and particularly Gampopa, to have this source, this focus for our faith in these teachings, these instructions, in the teacher giving them, and so on.
야삼바. 아니 다든지 다데 삼로든 내지 당차리 지라. 아니 공용 거 토네. 당가 주추의 가르치듯이 쇼가 요리시도 자네. 남치 접부 산지 공방 토부 치데 쇼가. 남치 접부 산지 공방의 수치의 토부 요리시나. 심지 탐지의 치의 토부 요리. 슈 가르치듯이 쇼가 요리, 나치듯이 쇼가 요리. 슈 듣는 가르치기 요리 산지 공방 토부 요리. 산지 공방의 수치의 토부 요리. 심지 탐지의 치의 토부 요리 세인데 특바진 비추의 차소아. 어떤데 지삼로 동고 요리.
So we set our intention to attain the omniscient state of full enlightenment. So, what do we listen? What do we attend to the teachings for? For our own practice. And then what do we seek to accomplish through that practice? The attainment of full enlightenment, the omniscient state. And then for whose sake do we seek this enlightenment? For the sake of all living beings, all sentient beings. So this is the kind of motivation in terms of our perception of what we're doing and why we're doing it that makes it the Mahayana practice of the great way of Buddha's teachings.
Oh yeah. 다들은 아주 슈친 예슈장이 바데 유친 예슈장이 바 그부 취지어서 되나요.
So we have come to the 22nd set in the teaching of the 10 necessary things.
담보 진진지不得吧 담보 진진지不得吧 샤마 샤와 중동의 비바 다베시 그 바드 시험은 집 준비 신배 소나를 바 다베시 그 타만 치지미 로데와 사와 랍진지시 기회 다베시 그 담보 로미드 시비 기회 내란다 포바 다베시 그 바드 임미드 고바 버치부 시바 마다베시 그 타만 사미드 시바 수마 데티베 시마 다베시 그 담보 출렁이 시지바 또바 카세 잠보단 티바 다베시 그 바드 안실렁 시지바 제제 노르니바 다베시 그 타마 니밀렁 시지바 소포 줌폭도 바다베시 그 대코나니라 코다치바 징네 프로사로 다베시 그 대네 그버 취조 예노시.
These are the 10 necessary things. In the beginning, genuine faith arising from fear of birth and death is necessary, like the attitude of a deer that has fled from a trap. In the middle stage, diligence such that one has no regret at one's death is necessary, like the attitude of a farmer at the harvest. In the end, a happy mind that cannot die is necessary, like the attitude of a person who has completed a great endeavor. In the beginning, a recognition of urgency is necessary, like that of someone pierced by an arrow. In the middle stage, undistracted meditation is necessary, like the intense feelings of a mother whose only child has died. In the end, a recognition that there is nothing to do is necessary, like the attitude of cattle freed by rustlers. In the beginning, the generation of certainty toward Dharma is necessary, like the feeling of a hungry person who encounters good food. In the middle stage, the generation of certainty towards one's own mind is necessary, like the attitude of the wrestler who acquired the jewel. In the end, the generation of certainty toward non-duality is necessary, like the exposure of an impostor's deception. The resolution of suchness is necessary, like a raven flying from a ship. Those are the 10 necessary things.
That's all. That they la pay the pitching, then the jandua, the pay in the sin, pitching the jan, in Haganan, and the Sungu. The city pay mambo, Shawa Zundon the Tuba, Shimbe Sona Remba, Sawa Lapchink Simpichive, Chiva Candela, Dapopas in the pay mambo, jandua, pay the certain some sal pitching the tea, some man, tumpas in the and the Tesongoli. And then don't tell a chiba your mind, what you choose at the downwalk, choose at the Siglam, turn, so the cups, and it's a tire your mind. Tapena got the do gay, Korang public cups, Hoyuk de down, we pitch a talk and Hoyuk de down. We pitch a talk and near down de down, turn daily checker, Lomba de Tampe down, Lomba de you long comes, he get Tony. Yang dan the chile, sick the flap. Then they do Johnny to shoot sigla, she that you don't see go chillum, turn, say at the day comes the one then out some of them all to the secret.
So we have a lot of examples or metaphors given here to be applied to certain meanings. This is a kind of structure that comes in poetry, in Tibetan poetry, the explanation of examples and meanings. And the thing to remember here is that these examples were given to a particular audience, that of the Tibetans, their society, and the conditions, the situation that they lived in. And so sometimes for us, these examples may not be as clear as it was for them. And so the thing to remember here is what's important is not the words, but the meaning of what we're of what we're learning. So remember that the words themselves are not as important as the meaning that we're getting from listening.
Tambo Chinchin Jipper Depa Shamas. Tangarang to Depa say at the Depa Tambu under it. At Depa the Jamroni, the Yam the understand Jamru Jute, any Jipa the Trapa. Rawa Jamru Jute, Jipa the Trapa Shaki. The Din to Sani Chiwa, Chiwin Jipata, Chiwin Jipata. Any that the whole mambo chill and jick trani. Any the Nigatoni in the Depa Yongo Yorwa. Or the Din to Sani, the Jinchin Jipper Depas. Jinchin Jipper Depate, any Shawa Tundon the Tupata Shikus. That country is now this check the correcting the Urisina, Nimjo Tuma Main Pajicoris. Oh, not the whole track and dogs in a Dongal Nala de Yalek and Diki Marwa. Hoa Donghaki Johnson de la Tran and Jiki na. Any take jobly, take jobsy sudo. They lay a tartali sudo. Someone you buy it down, the tartavate, Sanji Chadi. This Sanji a long told Drugor, Ankoan de la part Drugoris. Then they shook a carrot thing you receive it on it. Nimjong go at the thing. Nimjong Juba my budget.
So in the beginning, genuine faith arising from fear of birth and death is necessary, like the attitude of a deer that has fled from a trap. So in the practice of refuge, faith is a big part of that. But one of the causes for developing refuge is a dread or a fear of death and rebirth. So a dread of the dangers and the sufferings, the many kinds of sufferings that are experienced in samsara, in the round of suffering, cyclic existence. And so the attitude of a deer that has fled from a trap symbolizes that we're seeking to escape from the sufferings that we fear, that we dread, that are part of the round of cyclic existence of samsara. So what this first line really then indicates is a pure sense of renunciation, of turning away from samsara towards liberation and seeking to get free of the sufferings of cyclic existence. And so, the idea here is not to just remain in terror or fear, but then to think, well, what could free me? What source could I find for freedom from these sufferings? And then in that, we see that a Buddha, a fully enlightened being, has the ability to guide us out of these sufferings. So this overall, this first line indicates that sense of renunciation, seeking to attain liberation from samsara.
Yeah. Any anybody ke part the sham ju tsun ru sing be sonare ba ta shi ko si. Ta di na ni part the sham ju pa so ni. Ta manju pa se ya te ran se ta me mambo cha sha te la ji ta any ju pa any dungar any hajang mambo cha shikha te la shikha lamo te la ni chine ka nando li kaps. Any muma ke te pa se ya li tham di sen na ti. Any te ka ta sen la dungar ta ka nga. Any lakwa den ju pa muma mandawa tham chi len ju pa. Any dikpa seba tham chi len ju pa la so pan ju pa mambo chi yoga yorwa. Tending du zane tin ju pa te meli te kadu so ko ri si tu zane tata zupo tang tang yin ba kaps. Tata ngarang so la ju rimbo che tata mashi tsereng le deli kaps. Te tsu yu ba kaps. Tun chin zombo kaps. Any zun ru si ko ri. Zun ru song do. Zun ru si ya te kala shi ko ri se zun gang ge la towa o ge wa la towen dun ba de je ba go ni. Zun ru ko ngo te kare ri ge wa la towa. Ge wa la me pa. Nge tambe chu chi ki nge pe cha takasa ke chi shu ki nyam shi ki samba chi ge wa la towa yu pa. Di lam nen jo go yu si. Tin yu kang te kan den jo go ri si tu cha ne xing ba ke sonam re ba da wo si. Tade pache pe tu so la xing be sonam chi de ha ye ke ya la gun la ten la chi la tu ye la sonam de pe ni de yu. 지난주 참사나 양지 그 사지 카자 사하장 통보인도 자네 군을 든지 제가 나서나 양 군라 양라 문자게 코랑 직든데 소나고 huma le yali leka le chali ke leka taso le de ayo tu kala yang ndramda tan dru tang ani ndramda phatap churchi yang chi le thad yang chi le chang ni joya melike lo chik nana sonam la takwa rehel tende le de tende yuri o tende indu chani chundu le te na yi singbe sonam remba tawa sina singbe sonam le beba tawa chundu sewa na yi ani ngarang choke ya tambo che yuli kapsu de chu yuli kapsu si ko ri 시간 유 고리치리 차나 아닌 차차리 시간 동하게 양차나 시간 지다가는 차나 아닌 차차리 디 문이 준듯이 거리 준듯이 담배 출려시 거리 시당대 아니 힘배 소나브림 받다와 판음이 봐 이말에레지도 거랑 어떤 난 거리 있어 보여.
In the middle stage, diligence such that one has no regret at one's death is necessary, like the attitude of a farmer at the harvest. So, many people have a lot of fear and regrets at the time of death. It tends to be a time that the people have a lot of regret. Maybe they remember harmful things they did in the past. Maybe they think how they weren't able to accomplish things that they wanted to accomplish, and then the many kinds of sufferings and experience of death can give rise to a lot of fear and regret in the mind of a person. And so the indication here is that now, when we're healthy, when we have, strength of body and mind, is when we need to put our effort into practice of the Dharma so that we don't have regret at the time of death. When we have all of the conditions that have come together and we have full strength of our faculties, is when we need to practice. And the example that's given here is like the farmer at the time of harvest. Now in Tibet, there was always agricultural labor that went on. It's not the same as just different seasons, but in the winter time there was things to plant, there was things to prepare. In the fall, different kinds of stages of the farmer's work were necessary, and so it was really a continual, year-long thing that the farmer was putting forth this effort. So what is the effort again? It's that delight in terms of Dharma. It's taking delight in virtue, wanting to do it because you enjoy it. So feeling I want to do this because it's I appreciate it. I like such practice, and so this attitude of the farmer at the harvest is really referring to a perseverance, that the farmer is constantly persevering in bringing up those crops. So just like that, one's perseverance should be continuous while we have this opportunity.
아테게 지바데게 아니 당보 라 지바데게 당보 순바르베 순바데 공다 삼바 순바데게 타마르 치주미 로데와 사와 랍치시비 기베 따베시 그지 따텔라 마페 인다그나나 치주미 파세야데 마페 인다나는 뭐 타마르 로데와 사와 랍치시비 기베 따베시 그지 당에 가장 마페 숨서지가 따이 치주미 로데와 사와 랍치시비 기베 따베시 그지 대당 타마르 로데와 사와 랍치시비 기베 따베시 그지야 되라 치버티시진도 와 대인도자는 내 마베 카시질을 들는 때 마베 만보질은 치주미 봤어야 되면도 카시질은도 어디 담보되지 소나.
On this third one, in the end, a happy mind that cannot die is necessary, like the attitude of a person who has completed a great endeavor. Now, there are a number of versions of the root text of this instruction. And while some of them have this phrase, the mind that cannot die, or the deathless mind has that, while there's others that just have that a happy mind, a blissful mind at the time of at the end or at the time of death. So there's a difference in the root texts that I've found. I've researched this and looked at quite a number of the root texts of these instructions.
The Lord devasea den happy mind labdoe.
Lare de nicha dilo nicha yore.
Happy mind Lord devatela kadena. Yeah. Da 강다정 in the city dark. 타만 치주미 버스. 타만 치주미 바세야데 가레리시나 ngaranchu mencheseyade ani yonda ta de mencheseyade zuponde yokne zuponde mewar chane sogwang boden gache de zuponde mewar chandoya digni modela ni mencheseyade le shege yorwa jidan yonda ka ta de sit ani semtele dunayen chiju yo marta de jiran jogan chigarwa Sentela menchili leka kare leka dinanin chiji mi leka je leka so chiji mi ba kare zo ko si tane sangha doji tik chu nyam se lang na kosum nyam ni si ni kapsu ani semla ani kare se ko re ta chimi che ren top si ne bangong pa ba le ani sangha ka chu nyam ni nang ne ani chimi che ren ni so chimi che ren ni se ya de lu de le ni se che ke yo ma da sen 코랑도 토라 아니 지미 체르지 이네 아니 주보락바도 파욕 차도 코라 주보 살바디 티나나 초쇼니 값이 아니 디 주면 투도 되시네 네네 주는 못질라 네네 세시바 찍이 주라 세시바 시나인다 당가랑조 듭지에 샤라가 르 다득 듭지에 샤라 르 대바 지오지 차도 센도 그만아 이시되네 대라 간사 찍어 토라 아니 체름보 진로하게 예정다 체름보 진로하게 예조야 이 상하 그때 체버던 방발은 치미 체른진이 거리시 치미 체른진이 사나 아니 제완디 토라 상기리 금명아 탑람다지 되는 얘기를 있으나 상하는 애들이 송요리 가장 애들은 지시시네 남초리 진트와는 지시 잠야야 내 지완 통마소 때 하피죠 남조리 진트와 코랑라 이 토는 듯이 잠자연 통마소 근데 때라 컨디션도 내 따지를 마소 말한 그 삼쳤다듯이나 치즈미 시야데 치미 치르지 이네 그좀 남치는 것도 좋네 치미 치르지 이 소아이나 아니 치미 치르지 이 차도 닌 처음이 봤어야 되게 단에 뒤니 못 될래 얘기 요와 토그 요와 되들이 차기 요 근데 자네 된리질라 고나인데 근도 혹시 다 디나니 가레세가 사와 랍친지 시비 집에 따와 사와 랍친 가레리시나 랍친비 사와데 가레리시나 상하 도지 특 랍친 그 추데라 고선 남칠 끝내데 네네 냠미세네 아니 롭종라서 반디 다와 명알라서 바 서지네 상하 그 추다 랍바도 고선 남칠 그 랍친 그 사와 랍친 그 추 된리지게 된리지 고리스 단디나니 사와 랍진 때다 아니 양 삐진 라양 랍진 지심베 사와 랍진 지심베시나 양 내가 뜬데 랍친보 빼는 거랑서 먼저지나 총친보 지포 총친보 지가 내가 된친보 진 립네 아니 룸볼 란침도 lok봤다 같은데 소리 대본 그 노벨 받다 같은데 소리 다 강자자 소신 뇌바데 영수 쪽바 참만 줍네 아니 샘도 바 큰네 어떤데 지소와이나 아니 사와 랍친지 심비 집에 따와시리 타만 치즈미 바 로데와 사와 랍친지 심비 집에 어떤데 진데는 되게 로딩도
In the end, a happy mind that cannot die is necessary, like the attitude of a person who has completed a great endeavor. So about this, that not dying, in the practice of Tantra, there is an attainment such that, like what the master Nagarjuna attained, in which case it becomes possible to prolong one's life and to live for a very long time, and in the course of that long lifetime, then attain enlightenment. So that I feel could be one meaning that is ascribed to this. Otherwise, what we usually think of as death is this, is that destruction of the body, the ending of the body's life. We usually think of that as death, but the mind does not die, as you know and believe through our study and practice. And so then this also refers to the transformation of that whole process of death and rebirth through taking the three bodies of a Buddha onto the path, realizing the Buddha mind and body through the process of death and rebirth, so that it's really transcendent. And so as for the example here, like the attitude of a person who's completed a great endeavor, if we've been, for instance, engaged in some kind of business or activity, and then it's been accomplished, and we've attained the goal of it, whether it's the profit or the wealth, and then there's a sense of accomplishment, of happiness in attaining that. And so that's the example that's given here for the accomplishment in the end that we seek to have, which is a transcendence of death.
That's and then Chiwati Yogodon, Chijumi, Lord Devasi, Lord Devasi, Lord Devasi, Chivakapson, that's Shumaina, Nagan Chichi seat Goris, and it Chuba Rabla, Nagan Chichi seat, Nana Yang Chipamipa, Nana Gawa, Shena Kibosi Shwa, Shona Tata Shenayang, and Lord Deva, Sinchibosi Shetawa, Nagan Chichi Chuba Rabla. Chuban drink de la Shenayang, Magic Baji Goris, Chiwalan Jami. The Chubala Ramding Indua. The Din du Zani, Din and a carreting Urisi du Zani, Kadam Gavishi, Gypsy Mamma Taxum Rawa Chicky, Jison Rang, the Swaina, Zona, Nagan Chichi in the Goris. Naranju Tata, Chua send the lip Dizani, Chijida Pashu, Chua Sia, the main Koran Amchola Conduni, Messier Rogodoa. Social and Chijida Pashu, Social and Najida Pashu. Now than Chua last, I'm sure going to Zanelli, she had a good one. That didn't metapa last about a lob young con dick or shoot to the senior mission, a taparacular to the say the Vaina. Any Munik in Chua down and in Jacata, don't have last by unique capsule. That the Mungo Dalamasona, woman is Zutzadutani, captain in Jacata in Yonga.
So when we come to death as a Dharma practitioner, at best, we have an attitude that is fine with whatever happens. Whether we're sick, we're fine with that. If we die, we're fine with that. We have no regret. We're happy about it. Now, at the middling level, we would seek to at least have no regrets at the time of our death. But at the best level, then we're fine. Now, normally, even to hear of getting sick or dying is something that's kind of frightful to us. We don't even like to hear about it, much less actually go through the experience. But here, through our practice of Dharma, contemplating impermanence, remembering death and impermanence, and so on, getting to a point where we're very much at ease with it, or we're not. We're fine with if we're going to be sick. We think that's fine. If we're going to die, we think that's fine. So, ideally, that's the attitude, to have a happy mind at the time of death.
Jibade, Tambo Lomi to ship it, given nail and up of a Tavish goes. Then the nanny, lamb, David Chatang Sugodoa, and the nanny Lomi to ship us, Sivateke, Topa Julie, Topa Julie, and they say, Social and Yamyongo Tony. Only done a dang the knee, Waina. And in Arangla, Ganga Kandichi Sumaina, Captain, and it tower the Gomba. Like what the tower to the Nishini. Any telejab Dalamasola, George Zani, any Ganga Mateva to the Sungi. They design a law me the Shibas, social tower Julie to the Chesediona, Kingi, the Parche, the Chago Kandichi Sonwanina, what are the degrees? Kadambe Gavishini and Besumba Nigeria. Nana not the Navega, hunsa je lengin je bai manana nate managa tang ge byom phwai sodwa nanayang degrees hunsa ka sonam le mada hunsa ka lengin bada je ndo kris manane devas dena interviews tele chi sames shu ge byom mentu de ge byom zun ge byom nyami sis ko ka yuris ta kang se na yang kang tar kan de shong chi po so na yanda to po so na yanda chepa kayang me se ya long mi de shipe given ne lan da po ba si when a magic lan da yu wa yin ne lan da po ba yin tin ban to na de si ne ri do ko ra pe tin na ji so yo
So in the beginning, a recognition of urgency is necessary, like that of someone pierced by an arrow. And Rinpoche referred back again to this attitude of being fine with whatever happens. But the Kadampa Geshes had this saying that if I'm sick, that's fine. If I recover, that's fine. If I die, that's fine. If I don't, that's fine. So their attitude was fine with all of it. You know, if there was sickness or hardship that was met with, then they would see that as a purification of their previous negative karma, and therefore be fine with it. And then, on the other hand, if they, recovered, were healthy, or not to die, then that was also fine. They're thinking that's great. I can continue with my Dharma practice, with my accomplishment of virtue. And so, in this sense of urgency, there's a feeling of there's no time to waste. Like that, like someone pierced by an arrow would need to take care of it immediately.
te ta de tsik de tuen jo ma se wa yin na oh nana nate navega hunsa je lengin se bai sin na if I am sick make me happy make me happy.
I'm happy because it purifies my negative karma.
If I am not sick, manan nate manaka tang ge byom phwai.
If I'm not sick, then I'm happy about that because I'll be able to continue my virtuous practice.
Good job, Samba. Part the you meet the gomba, that take it, Jiba de Tawa, Ngaba de Gomba Chakadwa. The need to part the you meet the gombas. The long meet the sheep tower, Nishi Julati and the capsule, they meant to the Jokong the Tane, and you meet the gomne, the tower the Junjong, you meet the gom de Vaina. Gongchile, Chikper, Perchipushiva Mata, which and the comes Kangan team, Kanga the Donga Kandichi Suaina, Tawa, Gomba, Yuba, the Sukoken, so some job seat to Achita. The Pajoka Kanga take similar than Humayowa. The Koshigadua, but you meet the Gomba. But you meet the Gomne, Tawa the Junjo, the lecture said they were in Kingi the Chago Kandichi Suaina, Kanga take Maris. Ben a Perchiper. Maishwata which Pechik Masha Swaina Gaju the Dubju Kayamewa that Chando Kosara Nekatila. Donga Cheta Kora Pachet and Dichila Kogome noting it.
On the middle stage, undistracted meditation is necessary, like the intense feelings of a mother whose only child has died. So in general, these instructions are geared towards the view, meditation, and conduct. So here, referring to meditation, once we have found the object of our meditation, then we need to cultivate it and be undistracted in the practice of it. And the situation that's being addressed here is particularly when there's a lot of difficulties, there's a lot of challenges. The reference to the feelings of a mother whose only child has died. Even in the midst of great hardship and difficulties, we want to keep that focus on our practice, our meditation. So I seem to have lost Rinpoche's visuals at the moment, right? Rinpoche, are
Da.
you there?
I am here.
You can
Oh,
run the
oh,
Tongamindu, right?
oh, sorry. Oh,
Oh,
Mahabay.
that Tongamindu. Oh, listen.
가르쳐서. Oh, yeah. 렉송아.
Dixon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Dixon.
올라서. 아니, 두바데게 타마라 사미드 시바 수마 데티비 시마다비시 그시. 단디나니 타마라 사미드 시바 소네. 딱 간디직 소나양 따곰 주섬 딩더 딩바치 소. 드리치 송데와 이나 스니 강아다 동하르탄 람만드라. 베는 유익인지 봐 사요하다 메달라서 막 간디치 송 소소라 뇌는 강아다 동할 간디치 송아이나야 스니 용거도 못와. 지도 코란 지내야다 동네야 가네나 드리 냠드 로트와지 고리 수바트리다. 디나니 수마 데티베 심하다비시 그소야. 답베 카시지가 나나 지보다고 그소이. 가장에 양마베 카시지 로이 심하세야 되게 가래 고유리시드 나랑주 심지 망보가 답보 자되니까 아마텔 심하스 그네. 심하시 시세야 돼 심지 망보지 야당 저당 근데 심지 조당 조모 망보 근데 지가 심지들 시세 그요라 아주 시세야 시그와 근데 이제 전에 심마세야 돼 디 dak종시 되니까 아마가 막인들 심하스 그요 제당 파당 마니데 가준 로바가 나니 심지가 제와 때 막치야 유리시게 니나니 시와시면도와 시마세네 마이 다다 샨디비 시마시 야잔데 전에 아마데라 고유리 근데 이제 전에 아마데 심지라 빼 지종 힘보사리 아니 심지데 드락디 소아이나 아니 아마데라 드락 디차디 가레세 거리치 탑시 가요 밀리 모라는 염총로와 아마치 가연 용거 말아와 다 가레청나 종삼바치가 로타르 추네 내야야지 니지 용거 사리 데디도 자니 단 디나냐 가랑주 주법값을 사미드 시바시 나와 곰바 주바 데디그 값을 아니 수마 데디 바타비시 고래 예손 다 강다장 다와든 튼보치다 곰바든 튼보치 세미 값을 주바데래야 란신 들지 차로 그러지 가독 주바치 주바야 보소나야 가야미바 도코소나야 도야미바 아주 치다 파바가 주바나 이시시 도주가 주바나 이시시 다다 상하가 주다 라바드 톱당 된다게 냠니다 어떤데 지송가 살이 삼 가시게 양 심하들 조다고 조다오시 그송도 수마 데티베 조다오시 그 심지 조 심지 초종시 되니들 조스 그요라 니나니 심하들 고지치 보지도 오사송에 심하세야 돼 조세야 돼 조도 요본다 지라 용초거와 요보데 코랑게 심지 오마데 민디잔에 대선 지종 요 말에 콜라차 때데 그요라 직신은 마창데가 보다 보모라소바 조를 로초그 요리데 아마데가 심지를 제와 치슈리다 나준 로바나 그 마데게 야다 라다 록다 딱바 레시 데가 초종식이 요라 근데 이제는 심하다 그시야 되라 야본도시 더 베바들에 이제는 게 된듯이 베바를 잡아요
In the end, a recognition that there's nothing to do is necessary, like the attitude of cattle freed by rustlers. So this is speaking about a high level of realization, such as Mahasiddha, who's, in terms of their conduct, realizing now that there's nothing necessary to do, no matter what's happening. And the example that's given here, like the attitude of cattle freed by rustlers, there's some different versions again of the root text here. It would more likely be like the attitude of either the herder when the cattle are freed by rustlers, or by the mother when the cattle are freed by rustlers. Okay, so there's a word here that can refer to cattle, all sorts of livestock, and with the feminine attached to it, then it would seem to be the mother of these livestock. And for nomads, when we think about the parents of livestock, um, we think of the mother as having the even greater compassion and feeling for the offspring than the father, and so that attitude of the mother of the livestock being um, happy that the cattle has been that the livestock is free. Otherwise, with the interpretation of it being like the herder who's taking care of the cattle, that doesn't seem quite as powerful to me for the example. So, like that mother of the livestock, um, when the cattle and the livestock is free, and there's nothing to do. So that's the example.
samba ta dimba da 당보 출렁 이시지바 또바 카세선보다 티바다비 그 시다 출렁은 자샤자 you have a rainbow in the office samba 당보 출렁 이시지바데 또바 카세선보 당보 출렁 이시지 또바 카세선보다 그 다베 야보도 출렁 뜻이 되다 rainbow도와 아니 되리자 니나니 출렁 이시지와 세야데 그 출렁 가래 고곤데 시디자네 출렁 준주세네 의시지와 준주의 의시니가 고다 야보도 되다 출렁 의시지바다 출렁 준주세바데 또발라 카세상보다 또발라 카세상보 티바다시 그지 신소아
Lotus. In the beginning, generation of certainty toward Dharma is necessary, like the feeling of a hungry person who encounters good food. So, conviction and certainty with regards to the Dharma is indispensable. And I would add here that perseverance, that joyful effort. Both certainty and joyful effort is necessary in an approach to Dharma, like the feeling of a hungry person who's encountered good food.
아니 지바데가 발들 안실은 의시지바 제제 논이바 답시 그지 아니
And in the middle stage, the generation of certainty towards one's own mind is necessary, like the attitude of a wrestler who acquired the jewel.
다되게 베나 랑그센라 담보 따와니 되잖아 니티 따와들은 의시지기요와 랑그센고 따와들라 의시지에 되잖아 하장 투모마이 바카 당문에 다네 덴드라오지게 삼바지 산지 좀딘데게야 사비에 두달 유산 드마세 드르 따위 취시 코위 니 설라 띵자 고발 먼저왜 맨나 나담니도 내 버사세야 돼 따와는 신이데 된 송야지지리 시소아 근데 전에 따와는 신이데 제그 노르니 바나지 요벌 제세나 염소나는 드론에 노르 장키 될 때봉아 제스기 지과리 염치나는 드론에 아니 뭐마보 티네 코랑그 노르 하고 요리 노르 마보고 짠네 아 노르 하작 자침보지 된지 니와이나 아니 코랑라다 빼마시 가와침보지 제거요라 빼티나 ing랑저 생게 님베도 바 남도 거나니 뭐도 바그 이시 따와 투모마인 바그 문에 그 따와 다다 산지 좀 된데 그 subject to 선드마세 송대와 나이 니와이나 아니 하자 생나 또아침보 가와침보지 요거요리 빼텔서 요리시
So this generation of certainty towards one's own mind speaks of the kind of experience that one has, and the confidence and the certainty in really encountering that view, such as Buddha describes in his first experience of enlightenment. This profound peace, it's unborn, unfabricated. I found this nectar-like Dharma, but if I try to explain it to anyone, they won't understand, so I'll just stay in the forest and meditate. So there was this sense of wonder, of awe, and so this is the kind of certainty that we at this stage will have developed. And the example that's given, Rinpoche says, more like the seagoing captain rather than a wrestler, who in the ancient times is reputed to be able to find precious jewels in the ocean, and people would go with this captain to find precious jewels, and when they did, then they would find this most precious of jewels and be so overjoyed and happy to find that. So that's the example that's given for this discovering the true nature of our own mind, developing the confidence and the wonder as to what that is.
loso ani guba de ke thama nimi la ngishi ji ba so po zumpo de ba da shi ko
In the end, the generation of certainty toward non-duality is necessary, like the exposure of an impostor's deception.
Tandi nani nisin zimba tawasi. Dinde ina, dinde mina samba cheki ninzin ka tawa. Lo ninzin ka ante chin so yuri. Nyam yang ma la la dan, nyam yang ma la gom jani kapsu. Kanyang ko tachi to de ji ba so yuri. Tachi to de chu go yuri ta. Ta nge tawa te la no so tawa ni me. 산지 좀 뒤인데랑 따다패나 주랑 그 따와서 놀이 쏘나양 내 켈린 삼마리 삼바치 그 나랑 그 따와들랑 나랑 그 니신이 고요리 니시 많이 와 이나 가래 용거 요리 근데 이나 근데 미나 삼바데 그 니신 짐베 로니 진식의 로제니 용거 요라 딜로 제니 되라 근데 지금 많이 봐 아니 님이 그 니시제네 소포 좀폭도 받아와지 소포세나 면 말아 다 가장 강이 소포세야 제치 완전히 추지게 된 이렇게 칼라 큰니 뭐 카다 꼬면 총 왔던데 지금 자준 시행고活当되니 된데 지라 매지가 어처럼 그 자준 시에서 말아 세성세나 카톡 된데 지라 그런 거 준포 대완이나 코 항다 상도 그러와 왜 디나이 님이 그 따와디 토를 이제 줄리 값을 근데 된데 지고 그래 진송하다.
So the certainty toward non-duality, which Rinpoche explains here as a sense of having no doubt. If we have a kind of a two-pointed mind, and we're always thinking, is it like this or is it like that? And so we remain in doubt. So not having that kind of uncertainty, we develop a full certainty and determination, and feel that we have determined, what it is without doubt, and so we no longer have a fluctuating mind that goes between different possibilities, but are single pointed in our confidence of the view and the meditation that we're doing. And like the exposure of an impostor's deception, this was that same word as before we saw in terms of a charlatan, someone who is a cheater, who is a fraud, and someone who's focused on mundane concerns of gain and fame and so on, and is telling lies. And if you come up to such a person and you go, "You're a liar," and they're going to be flabbergasted. They're going to be like nonplussed. Right? So that's the kind of example Rinpoche is explaining that this refers to here.
로소 아니 주바데게 데코나니라 코타 주바 젠네 풀바 사로타베시 그시다 뭐 그바데게 아니 타지 토도 주바세야데 나랑아랑 주이나 식선내데 그나네 타지 토도 주바 따와라 타지 토도 주바 그바데게 시데 주바데게 댕토 토도 자와세야 댕토 토도 자와세야데게 답베데데 지과리자 데코나니라시 나와 던지기 줄랑 희니네 니스미 빠와 데코나니라 간기 고바데게 니스미 빼 닌진가 로방부 데코나니가 따와 데라 슈랑게 인당 미 가양 마상바 타지 토도 치네 코타 추바라 카도터도 추차데 애니 데토란 정부 똑바다 님부 똑바 간데 송아 있나요 제박가요 말 빼나 징네 풀바사로 따스 징네세나 징기나니 사로 시거도와 인지가 간들라고 나데 인지가 메나 가네 데 사로 데 라서 어때 풀나 코 풀랍 침보 풀토고 말이 중심에서 풀토고 말이 코 징니 파암풀 징가 토라 철래 말이 징가 토니 파진 풀 징가 토라 철래 잠초 하제 자치 뭐와 콘풀도사 가야요 말이 근데 인도 자네 슈랑크 생라야 코타 등이 추차와 있나 내가 비게 남동 임발라서 받아 게다 먹게 라서 봐 간데 그 똑바 요나야 제바 가야요 말이지 똑바데 슈랑 생 코랑크 토라서 시르고 징는 풀바 사로데 팜 풀나야 풀데 철징그 토라 바바 나히 내 코나니라 코타 추수 살리티 따와데 토라 마 돈도 거리지 잠소고 발압대야 잠소는 용거 요리데 잠수 발압대 잠소라 마틈도 남코 팀바데 남코니 용거 요리데 남코 팀바데 코랑 파틈사데 남코 팀발라 말다 남코 코랑라 파틈도 어빼 되나 인디나니 뜻이 소네
In this certainty with regards to one's own mind then relates also then to the ninth one in the end generation of certainty towards non-duality is necessary, like the exposure of an impostor's deception. It goes on to, it relates to the 10th one also, the resolution of suchness is necessary, like a raven flying from a ship. So with this certainty about the view and no fluctuating doubt, then there's no discrimination between what occurs, whether it's good or bad. The mind doesn't get caught up in negative things or positive things. Rather, it comes back to its own nature. So when thoughts arise, they dissolve back into the true nature of the mind. And the example is given like a raven or a crow flying from a ship that's at sea. So it flies off the ship, but there's nowhere for it to go except to just land back on the boat. So in similar way, thoughts that arise are seen to then dissolve back into the true nature of the mind. Similar to, again, like waves on the ocean. The waves arise, look like there's something, but then they dissolve back into the ocean. Or like clouds in the sky appear, but then they also then dissolve back into the space of the sky.
라소 아니 가장 삼반 탑실랑에 이메일이 땅이 와라 추진이 바하신데 Did you get the email yesterday?
Yes, I have it.
Okay. 다디 이메일이라 아니 Tilopake Saja Chimbu Gangamale. Namkaranji Gangi Gangla, the Ransi Saja Chila, dear me. Kimba Luna Towa Tetsomi, Mati Numunga, Lula shows. That is Kamati, Gelongdi, that is Jatin Gelongdi. Nibate, to Chin Saraheje, but Saki Tohak Juganani. Jeta Zingling Pur Sarone, Sonam Korchin, Flying Deram Bob. Dupe seem to top Gigi, Jang, Angbu Seni, Newmani the Bobs. That is sick Holoka Nide, and the lonely Jubade, Madati Tama, Tada Lamchori Chincho, Lao de la Japting along today.
So in additional support to the 10th line, I've quoted from Tilopa in his Mahamudra instructions called the Gangama. Like the nature of space, upon what does it rely? One's mind, Mahamudra, has no support. If bonds are relaxed, one is liberated without doubt. Relax and settle in the unborn primordial state. And as the Mahasiddha Saraha also then sang in his song or doha of Mahamudra, like a crow flying from a ship at sea, circling around and then landing back. One's tracks of thoughts made by desire vanish, original mind lands in the primordial state itself. So I provided these two verses in additional support of the last of these instructions here.
All that in a good that they trendilla.
So these are the 10 necessary things. So that completes it for today.
And it rain Twartling Kashichiling is in Chinabala Twayuna. Use and Delan Tundelic Twagori Miss Twandam that on my own chomi. Gypsy like Twasicora. That use and Dela Samotan del Twachi on the payable.
So if anyone had questions about this particular instruction, that would be best. Maybe not just questions about just anything, but if I would take some questions this time if there are any.
Rumujanda dikasa sarahagi chabe jignane dis so di chabe di tel kale
Sarahage
Doha
de la Dohanju Dohanjuri
Dohanju
Dohanju Sachi Dohanjule
ale chakchen dohanju los
Chagya Chimbo Dohanju
dohanju los
The Mahamudra treasure of spiritual songs, or doha.
Treasure of spiritual songs. Thank you.
Or doha, the Sanskrit, but
thank you, Dave.
So any pache, any questions? No.
Yeah, if nobody else has a question, I'd like to ask a question, Rinpoche. Thank you so much. So in relation to the third verse, we're talking about in the end, a happy mind that cannot die is necessary. Like the attitude of a person who has completed a great endeavor. You mentioned that there are three possibilities, at the time of death that we can work toward, hope for as practitioners. You said at least the least of these would be to simply be accepting and have a contented mind no matter what we face at the time of death. If we're sick, great. If we're not sick, great. and that we're peaceful at the time of death. And at the middling stage, you said to have no regrets. But I'm not sure that you mentioned at the best stage, what would be the very best opportunity at the time of death. And my mind went to, and please elaborate and tell me if this is correct, at the best, is it within the Buddhist philosophy that we actually have the opportunity to become enlightened at the time of death? That this is a possibility for us as we go through the bardo. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. I understand. Yeah, I understand what she said. What she meant. Okay. Tate ngayon di na ni sumba de la samba. Tambo de la nagan chichi.
아니 rinpoche yang kang kusum lamke sumbarawa.
Dede ka chosi a de ngay tambo de chu. Tambo de la ngay de sheri. Tambo de la ngay kar sheri sina nagan chichi. Rabdu songwa ina nagan chichi. Drink de la any dan chewa kapsu any dan jikta meli chi tende gore isi. O tende ko shierwa. Ta ang tambo de kare ri si de chane kusum lam chi chi kapsu any chika padi dunghale chine xieju da traju pa ya de chika ka kapsu chi kusum lam chi ka kapsu chiwa chugo ngundu jone. Chiwa chugo ko tola sangye tubi chike. Ang tambo de deri isi da. Morang rewa teri do morang samsa teri.
So this mention of Lolas, this mention of taking the three bodies on the path is really indicative of what Rinpoche would say is the best possible outcome at the time of death, because what that really entails is the transformation of the ordinary experience of death into the attainment of Dharma Kaya, of Buddha mind. So there, and from there then, enlightenment being attained in that process of one goes through. Yes.
That's all. Tatang kongli shi ba ti sumba telan chiju mi pa sia de mapi jindala mendo si. Chiju mi pa sia de korang tamar lo dewa sawa lapji si bi jibe tabe shi go sia. Tendisini ma roko no ma to tamarin chiju mi pa sia de sikde mapi jindala mendo.
So as I mentioned, in some of the versions of the root text, it only says, in the end, a happy mind is necessary, like the attitude of a person. And this phrase that cannot die is not mentioned in some of the versions of the root text.
That's all.
무청아 직간디 쉬지단다 단다 그나 레출라기 송교디 숨바디 디 삼루치 땅윤디 안디 제라 nga바 tukpa dimba nga shiba ngaba tukpa tila longwa meba yengwa meba chara me charme me songyungdu ani sumbadila lo debu chawalapsin simbe kebu shigyola de changmala samruchi 땅윤디 창마지 그런 것이 동반이 또 장애기 끼부지게 꼴을 송디 거르베 간지를 무슨 띵아라 셈발라 이제 더 지워질리게 들으면서
동반이 또 찬이게 깨져 시게요 말에.
노세르면서
디나니 나랑조 마음발라 드드드르치게 징이 송와 이나 따와다 곰바 락바다 따와다 곰바 니가 토니 셈데 띵보시 되는 드드드르치 총안 드드드르치 용거리 갑 데드추랑라 따와 토니 따가 토닝이 시트르지 니요나 강아든 체가 말이 세야지 그 빼다 빼지 니잖이 시가도 와. 아디 차상그 나나 따와 땅 곰바다 주바 차상 들으시네 마 고알리지도 코랑 이제 남대왜 차상 고알리지도 따와다 곰바다 주바 차상 고알리지도 때 따와 또 살리지 그 뭐라 된데서 야주지리면도 돼.
로스 무슨 거든지
Rinpoche. Okay, so the question had to do with seeing these negations in the fourth, fifth, and sixth ones, well, being without distraction and without anything to do and so forth. And so the question was about the third one. Does this relate to a realization of emptiness, was the question that came to my mind. And Rinpoche says that in the structure of these instructions, with them being in terms of view, meditation, and action, the first three are really referring to the view. So it's not talking about fruition at that point yet, but just having conviction, certainty about having found the view of what one is focused on, and from that point of view, then having no regret at the time of death. So it's referring to that preliminary stage of first discovering the view.
So, Gondoe, Chinanjaga Gondoe,
Does that make sense? Can you
Angati
hear me okay?
Marbo Chaya, de
My battery is running out. I hope you can. Rinpoche, kyang sun dandon yapo gogudu.
Chipachi Jani Doa.
It's still the same. It hasn't gotten
Okay.
softer, has
Oh,
it?
good. Okay. That's all. All that's all. Any telling some yagi, any telling chutun to the land some yogi. Puchina.
Okay, so we'll stop here for today.
Pande tsawe lama rinpoche dagi chiworo peme denshola kati chenpe kone jesone kuson tuki ngudu tse tu so. Om Soti Ramjan Kyamne Kyatsu Chinla Tan Tenye Tendre Lua Mepet Kebara Chime Tseye La Tsoki Tsewa Ishin Chinchen Tengtere Kegun Chinle Karken Kama Pe Kasu Donga Chazo Menga Ome Suwe Lamta Nyamto Ki Yunde Tseka Yetere Shaptes Kange sansam doje rangkam su le wara tenje longdo tambej sheju tusam gombe dude yesa den gembe tinle tachi sho pande la me nambara tharba la kiji samya lota mikesh chinje le wara thongwe megu ki la me chinla simla juba sho Kewa kundu yangda lama tang jeme chuki pela longchuch Satan lamki yunde rabzo ne pade lame kokwan yuto shu.
O glorious and precious root guru, please take seat of lotus at my crown, caring for me in your great kindness. Please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Om Swati, may the blessings of infinite seas of our places of refuge, the force of the two truths' infallible interdependence, and especially the hosts of deities of immortal well-being, now rain down the magnificent splendor of their wisdom and power of longevity. The Lord of the dance of all victors' enlightened activity is Karmapa, your unquenchable thirst for the inner essence of his traditions, doctrines, of discourses, tantras, great seal, great perfection, and pith instructions, has brought the equalities of signs on the spiritual path, your experience and realization, to their full flowering. May your life be firm. May the wisdom mysteries of your body, speech, and mind be as perfectly firm as a Vajra's own immutable elements. May your gatherings of disciples who study and practice the sacred teachings of scripture and realization by listening, contemplation, and meditation cover the earth. May your activity reach its ultimate consummation. May I never, for an instant, develop wrong views of the glorious Guru's life and deeds, but with devotion, seeing all they do as excellent, may the Guru's blessings enter my mind. In all lives, may I never be parted from qualified Gurus, enjoy glory of Dharma, and by perfecting all qualities of the paths and stages, quickly attain the state of the glorious Guru.
Dajin Simjin Tamji Lu Jusan Dovara Sinja Labda Sora Julamda Dovara Sinja Labda Sora Landripa Sinja Labda Sora Dripa Yishi Sinja Sinja Labda Daso Namji Judam Timba Ye Jidar Samba Yivshin Dripa Dan Nedonki So Padu Jibin So Nivara Shiva Sinja Labda So Olomendal Hinjiro, Kuchimanjura Sahinti, Atusang Gomsum Jimrinchi, Tila Jimbe Rashi Sho. Ola so, Tuchi Nang Chamani, Tuji Che Saba.
Tharchin Rinpoche,